For many people, the COVID-19 pandemic has passed and is not given much thought or news coverage. Yet there's a growing number of people who have reported symptoms that have never left them. Many of them have had these symptoms for years. The Office of National Statistics estimates that over 2 million Britons have long COVID. You may have it, or you may know someone who is struggling with it. My name is Paul, and I've been debilitated by long COVID since January 22. In this podcast, I'm going to share my journey and things I've experienced along the way. My aim is not to give medical advice. I'm certainly not qualified to do that. But I've been gaslit, ridiculed and dismissed for my symptoms, and I know it can be a very lonely place to be. It's an invisible illness, and I just want people to know that they're not alone. Welcome to the latest episode of Life with Long COVID. And if you are new around here, especially welcome to you. You may be thinking, what's this podcast all about? Well, I started it and it seems to have continued solely with the aim of helping people feel like they're not on their own with their symptoms. And in the way I do that is to really honestly reflect on my own symptoms and my own life and how it's been affected by long COVID. And I hope and I know that it really connects with some people and it helps them to feel like they're not the only one, because part of this illness is a real feeling of isolation. Today's episode is a bit of a meandering exploration of the reality of having to quit work. I've talked about this before. I know many of you are still soldiering on with work, and I totally respect that. Everybody's journey is different, and in my case it got to the stage where I had to take ill health retirement from my job as a parish priest, as a vicar. And I recently wrote an article about the implications of that, mainly the financial implications of what it meant, because it's a job where the house comes with a job, and it meant having to relocate my family, and we're going through that process at the moment, and all of the kind of security nets which we took for granted before: home, finances, everything. And it continues to be tough. We're still in the middle of moving. I know we're blessed in many ways, but when you have long COVID, when you have a chronic illness, preparing to move and moving, the worry of finances, the worry of stuff is just magnified 100%. And I've been really reflecting this morning on the loss of work and the loss of identity that comes with it. My job was a large chunk of my life. It was a vocation. It was something I loved doing. And in many ways, I'd begun to identify myself as that person. I was Paul the vicar. And most conversations I would have outside of the family home were in that role. And all of a sudden, I'm not that anymore. I'm Paul, the person with long COVID, who seems to be too sick to work, but not sick enough where I don't have to fight tooth and nail for every benefit going in order to survive. And it's something which is a constant challenge to me, particularly affecting my mental health. And there is an issue with long COVID or any chronic illness of its type, in that it doesn't affect you the same all the time. You'll know that if you've got it, that some days you get up and you feel okay. And they're the days where I think, I could go back to work today. I could pursue my dream of being a teacher, which I did have before, or I could get an office job, or I could get a job from home. All these kind of things. I even think sometimes, maybe I could be a vicar again. And all those things you think on that day, until I find about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon and the fatigue kicks in again, and you're reminded, actually, you can't do any of those things because there isn't a job in the world that you can work just on a brief hour or two when you feel okay. And I certainly couldn't handle anything like as demanding as a teacher role or a vicar role anymore. And you go through this kind of roller coaster where you feel okay, you don't feel okay, and with it comes, I could work or I can't work. And that means really you're constantly in a perpetual state of feeling like you've let yourself down or lamenting things that used to be that you can't do anymore. And with that comes the pressure of finances, and the reality of that is that we're in a lot poorer state than we would be if I was working. And I'm still concerned about how we will manage to live when we move. And that's the reality of it. And there's no help out there to be got. I've got all the benefits I could claim for. I'm currently going through the loop of reapplying for some of them because they only last for a certain period of time. So they make you go through the whole treadmill again. But I've got nothing else to apply for. And the pressure that I put on myself to go back to work is very real. And I know in the cold light of day that they will say that I haven't done, and it's completely outside of my control. But in those moments when you're sitting there on your own, nobody can tell you otherwise. And I'm being totally honest here because I hope that this connects with other people that may feel like that as well at the time. You're not the only one, and absolutely nobody has thrust you into this situation, certainly not yourself. This is just a consequence, an outworking of a global pandemic, and just because everybody else has moved on and the government don't seem to realise that people are still suffering and they haven't identified exactly what it is, it doesn't mean that it's not real. And one day they're going to realise that there's a heck of a lot of us out there. Only in this week I've managed to bump into somebody in the same situation as myself. There's loads of us out there, and the sooner people realise that, the sooner government departments realise that, and the medical profession in general get to grips with this, the better it will be, and we might get some treatment results. And I firmly believe that one day we'll be looked back in history and they will realise that there's a whole group of people who have been neglected. But until that time, it's just us, and we need to support each other. Of course, something I've touched on already that comes with having to give up work or stop the things that you enjoy doing is a kind of loss of identity, which I've kind of touched on already, but it's real, and you literally have to start again. And that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm in that difficult phase of starting again and thinking, well, who am I? Who am I going to become now? If I'm not Paul the Vicar, what am I going to be? And of course, it's probably too early to tell that, which is why you end up in this kind of in-between stage, which is painful. I've been in it before, but never to this extent where I've had to just stop overnight and everything ceases. By the way, if you hear noise in the background, for some reason, both of my small dogs have decided today to chase flies around the house. They are absolutely 100% absorbed in this, and I respect their productivity, particularly today because I haven't got any productivity. But it is also annoying, and you can probably hear it in the background. So I'm just mentioning that fly chasing is happening in my house. Who knows? Maybe I should join them. Yeah, so feeling isolated, feeling de-skilled because all the things I was good at before, I cannot practice at the moment. Things like leadership, I thought I particularly could do and enjoyed. Preaching, speaking, I can't do those things at the moment. And I've been trying to focus on what I can do, and that's writing, that's podcasting, that's speaking to you, in the hope that may well take me somewhere in the future. A lot of my articles can be subscribed to. I know I mentioned this umpteenth time, but there's a link in the show notes. You can subscribe and receive regular articles. And last week, there was an option when you subscribe to donate, either a monthly or an annual fee to subscribe. You don't have to, it's free, but a couple of people recently have taken up that option of donating some money. So I just want to say thank you to them, because that's like a massive boost, particularly for someone in my position where somebody has actually paid for the work that I've done. And as I say, there's no pressure. If you can't do that, I totally understand. It's not why I do it. But I do appreciate those two people who have taken the time and have been able to and been in the situation to financially help as well. So thank you. That really has given me a boost recently. I can't quite believe still that somebody has valued the content enough to donate some money towards it. So where do I go from here? I guess I'm hoping that once we move house and the family gets settled, that I'm going to get better and well enough to earn some money and relieve that money worry, and also maybe give myself some direction. And that's a hope, and that's, well, I believe that will happen, because if I didn't believe that would happen, things would be fairly hopeless. The other direction it could take is that I get pretty good at this writing online lark, or this podcasting lark, and that will be able to sustain me while I can't work. Because the reality is, we just don't know, do we, how long this illness is going to last for. I've spoken to people who have come out the other side. Equally, I know there's some people that haven't, like myself, and we're 4 or 5 years in, and by every metric we are fairly unlikely to improve significantly. So it's being in the middle of that storm. I think that's how I'm going to phrase it today. If you just sometimes in the middle of that storm where new things could happen but they haven't quite happened yet, old things have gone and burnt out and fizzled away, or even completely thrown away. And when you're in the middle of that process, you feel like you're in the middle of a storm and you're the only one inside it. Doesn't matter who's around you. I'm very lucky to have a loving family, and which I treasure completely. But it feels like when you're in the storm, the clouds are around you, the lightning's going off, you feel like you're the only one and you can't see beyond that storm. If you want to take the metaphor further, it's like being in the middle of a twister, a tornado, and it's all kicking off around you, but inside you're kind of isolated and lonely, because when you're in the middle of a kind of twister, I've seen documentaries where everything is completely calm just for a minute while it goes over, while you're right in that middle. And so that's how I feel. I feel like I'm stuck in the middle of this tornado, this twister, where everything's calm all around me, but outside, my identity, my skill sets, everything has been reset and is in some crazy state of flux. And it feels odd, and it feels lonely and very strange. So, I don't know where, goodness knows if this is making any coherent sense, but I offer it to you in the hope that you know and can connect with some of this. And if you can't, fair enough. I'm going to continue to upload episodes every week because I feel it helps me, and I know it helps some of you as well. So look, whatever you're doing, if you're in the middle of that storm like I feel at the moment, let us hope and let us pray that at some point the storm will pass over and we'll be able to see things for what they really are. But until that time, know that you're not alone and there are others in that storm with you. Take care.